So our speaker this morning is Isma, and she is someone who I think the poem could have been written for. Isma is really a giver for those of us who've known her. That is, if I were to take one word to describe Isma, I would say that she's somebody who gives and gives and gives again and asks nothing in return except a better world. She is the resident in the Graduate Public School of Health Programs at Hofstra, the executive in residence. Her interests in public health are healthcare infrastructure, ethnic barriers to primary care, and immigrant health. In 2015, she was elected the Islamic Center of Long Island's first female president. And Isma can correct me if I'm wrong. I think she may have been the first female president of any Islamic center anywhere. She has been involved with the United Nations Conference on Islamophobia, grassroots models for interfaith engagements, and a founding member of the Interfaith Refugee Settlement Coalition. In 2019, she launched a nonprofit called Waris Foundation to serve distressed global communities focusing on Southeast Asia. And during the COVID pandemic, she served as the co-chair of the Health Equity Task Force at Northwell Health. She's been listed in Long Island Press Power List from 2000 to the present among the most influential Long Islanders, and in 2021 was inducted into Long Island Press Hall of Fame. Her goal is to build bridges of mutual respect and move beyond just tolerance by celebrating diversity of tradition, culture, and religion. So thank you, Isma, for being here with us this morning. And the rest of the morning is up to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Arthur, and thank you, Ethical Humanistic Society, for your welcome and for having me again. I guess I did not turn anybody off last few times, so thank you for that re-invite. Arthur, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your mentorship. And Lynn and Arthur, I'm fortunate enough to call them my friends, and our friendship just kind of grew over a period of time. So that's the beauty of having friendship, and I'm very fortunate to have that blessing. I'm extremely sorry. I wish I was there in person, but I just want to be very careful because we all have our physical and medical vulnerabilities, and I did not want to be insensitive to that. So thank you for that understanding. Our topic for today, what a beautiful introduction to the day, Arthur. I wouldn't expect anything else from you because you're a very intellectual person, but you talk from your heart. And so I would be remiss if I do not mention that, but your opening remarks for this morning were truly inspiring. Our topic for today, when I was asked to put together a topic and a brief intro, a lot of times we're living in a world where we taught ourselves that intellect is something which is very different from our hearts. And a lot of times if somebody is attuned to emotions, we perceive them as mushy or weak or whatever our words are to describe people. So I wanted to put heart and intellect together because that's how I look at it. And I bet you guys that if each one of us over here today would just go back and look at ourselves and have a introvert analyses, we would think the same thing. Maybe our perceptions changed, or maybe we put that aspect on mute. But the topic of today, heart wisdom, and I rely on heart wisdom. That's something which is my intuition, which is something I a lot of times people ask me, how did you come up with this idea, or this is a difficult task? That's okay. If I think too much, things wouldn't happen. So, or if any one of us would just overanalyze things, the world would honestly stop. So the topic, heart wisdom, nurturing the soul and logic. So I'm a physician by profession, and I'm gonna just briefly spend a couple of, maybe half a minute, on how the heart communicates with the brain and the body. We're so used to thinking it's the brain which is the muscle, or which is the powerhouse of a body, and we are always nurturing our brain. Actually, if we would just reverse it and start nurturing our hearts, I think we would all be in a very amazing place. So how the heart communicates, there are so many studies on, and the fact is that the heart sends more signals to the body than the brain. And there's a lot of communication between the heart, the brain, and the whole body. There is the neurological communication, biochemical or hormones, pulse wave, and electromagnetic fields. So all this communication adds on to basically heart taking over our body. So let's do a little bit of an exercise. If everybody can hold your pulse, which is right here, gently with your fingertips. I hope everybody has a pulse. I do. So just hold your pulse. Just look at the pattern of your heartbeat. And now take a deep breath in. Hold that breath for as long as you comfortably can. Let go of that breath. If you can do it a couple of times, you will notice that your heartbeat slows down. Okay. And I always use this analogy whenever I am in any kind of conflict or distress. I do that. And that is my hack to reset my heart, not my brain. It helps me. That's why I'm sharing. So moving on to our topic for today, why is it important that we nurture our soul? And how is our soul connected? And how do we justify that and logically see that, oh, we are nurturing our soul and we are nurturing our logic as well? It basically, when we nurture both the soul and the logic, it cultivates emotional as well as intellectual aspects of oneself. How do we do that? How do we nurture this? And we all know it, because these are innate qualities in us. However, either we forget to polish it up, or we just forget that we have that. We are living in a world which is so goal-oriented, and those goals are mostly set by the society, by the intellectual gurus. We need to set our own goals. We need to set our own goals which are in sync with our own logic and our own soul. Sometimes we forget that. We start playing to a tune which we are not innately meant to play to. So if you look at children, and I always find whenever I sit with people who are younger than me, and trust me, every year it increases, which is cool also. So Jared, I didn't get a chance to thank you. So thank you so much for making it all happen on the screen. So every time, every interaction with anybody who's younger than me is always full of insight. I always learn something when I get out of that. So what is that quality that children have, or people who are younger than us have, and we forget as we grow older and get so used to our relationship with logic? There is an innate quality in children. They don't see color. They don't see religion. They see the world as what the eye would see. They would see the green as a beautiful green, and the sky as the beautiful blue with clouds. That's that innate quality. They just see the colors of the nature. Skin tones, religion, ethnic affiliations, they don't see that. What happens in that trajectory of growth where we lose that innate quality that we are all blessed with to an intellectual superpower? And that's something that we need to cultivate and understand. So why do we nurture our soul? We nurture our soul so that we stay in that innate state that we were born with. That's why it's important. It's otherwise things would not happen. Work of social well-being would not happen. Interpersonal relationships won't happen if we do not nurture that. How do we do that? We forget to be humble. We forget to polish humility and gratitude. What I have found that whenever I personally get attuned or I'm in sync with humility, there is a sense of gratitude that comes in, that deepen that sense of humility. Once we polish that sense of humility and gratitude, we become more accepting, we become more pleasant, we become more attuned to grief, and we receive the pain that somebody else is going through with empathy and a human quality of compassion. We've stopped being mindful. We don't see the grief in on somebody's face, or the reluctance, or the quietness, or those the moments of deep silences that whoever we are interacting with have, we don't look at it anymore, because we ourselves have that void. Whenever I'm in a rush, I forget that the world is not in a rush. Everybody has their own pace, and I forget to respect that pace. So we talked about nurturing the soul. So we do it by enhancing our emotional well-being, by syncing our emotions to humility and cultivate gratitude, by seeking a meaning and purpose in how to bring about a happy change, a kind change in the space around me. I often find myself, if I'm in any space, I want to be in that space, mentally, physically, intellectually, emotionally. And I keep reminding myself not to pass on that emotional aspect of my relevance to that space. Even if I'm cleaning that space or putting something in order in that space, my presence in that space is justified. And that's, am I always able to do it? Maybe. Am I always conscious about it? Maybe. Do I strive to do that? Absolutely, yes. So we talked about nurturing the soul. Let's talk briefly about how do we nurture logic, because we are so immersed in everything having a logical explanation. That's how we got trained after we grew out of our childhood, right? So nurturing logic or critical thinking, let's focus that critical thinking to engaging our activities which can make around a state of social cohesiveness. We need to keep telling ourselves, because that is how we stay humble to intellect, that learning is a lifelong process. And you can get inspiration of learning from anyone, any age group, from nature, from things that are alive and things we assume do not have a life. That's the purpose of being a part of a universe, of a realm. Problem solving. We might not be able to get to every problem. It's impossible. However, if we have that desire, that gets translated to the problem as well as to the individual who is going through something in their lives. We are a part of a society. That's how human life is created. And once we accept it and immerse ourselves, learning becomes easy. Making a difference becomes easier. And just that drive to go on is amazing. And then, of course, the intellectual problem solving and the intellectual curiosity. That's one thing that children have. That period of life is amazing. There is no fear to know something they don't know. They'll ask you questions. You're like, why am I here? Great questions. So intellectual curiosity cultivates our interaction with each other. How do we do that? Today, what we are doing is basically addressing as a group, as people coming from different backgrounds, different affiliations, different political parties, but coming together because we want to learn together. We want to be part of each other's lives. We want to make the space that we are in a better space. And those are a few things which are important to cultivate, which are I'm trying to look at the time also. So those are certain things that I just wanted to share. I also wanted to share the ethics of compassion, the ethics of empathy, and our moral responsibility, which helps us to morally develop ourselves in an ethical way whenever we are attuned to our hearts. Okay. And have that, if our intuition tells us right away it's right or wrong, that's the first thing that tells us if we are in the right space or not. We forget to polish it up. That's on us. Moral motivation, ethical motivation. Why? What is the ethics of living? What is the ethics of compassion? What's in it for us? Building relationship, building community. I think it's a work which is synced with our intuition, our heart, our sense of being, as well as it is the logical answer to what we're going through at this time. Why is it important that everybody agrees to a point that I bring forth? Because that responds to my ego. The minute I work on my ego, there is an ease. If I'm sharing something, it is not to convince the other person. If I'm sharing something, it's just a perspective. Sits well, awesome. Doesn't sit well, it's not bad. Again, coming back to compassion, empathy, humility, and gratitude. I'm very grateful. I'm spending this morning virtually, even though, with people who are part of an amazing group, who are committed to a Sunday get together with the community. I'm going to end up by, before we open it up to questions, some personal example. How does my heart wisdom, I call it, how does it help me as a physician? How does it help me as an interethnic or interfaith advocate? As a leadership position in the mosque, and yes, Arthur, thank you for that introduction. Yes, that had never happened before I became the president, but this is happening a lot more, and I'm very grateful that women are coming up in that leadership position, which was never denied to them by the religious tradition. It was just denied by the arrogance of the society. Okay. So how does my heart wisdom help me as a physician, as an interfaith, interethnic advocate, leadership position in the mosque, serving communities, and as a teacher, as a professor? I always think from my heart, or I keep reminding myself to think from my heart, because that is something which minimizes my arrogance of knowing something, my human arrogance, which I'm at fault of too. After our names, we have so many alphabets. Those alphabets are extremely important in the professional realm, because that shows our work, that shows our dedication, that shows our intellectual capacity. But those alphabets which come after our names make us arrogant also, which is a major, major, major barrier to heart wisdom. The minute we become arrogant, our heart goes on a long leave. It goes on a sabbatical. So my personal example as a physician, I come across individuals from all walks of life, from all ethnicities, and the humility to say, or to acknowledge to myself, I cannot be an expert in every culture, every ethnicity, but I can say, please teach me. I apologize if I've said something which would be offending to you. Tell me how I can help you in your health trajectory. How do I need to know more? Where do I go to know more about how you're thinking? Somebody would refuse a blood test. Somebody would refuse a vaccine. Somebody would refuse blood transfusion. I have no right to undermine their intellect. I have no right at all. The only thing I can do is respect that and make sure they understand why it's important. As an interfaith, interethnic advocate, I find my heart wisdom help me understand cultures, ethnicities, lifestyles, how people want to live. And it's their right how they want, as long as they're not crossing or impeding the other's growth. Everybody has that right. Leadership position in the mass. Again, certain cultures, certain ethnicities, certain, not to a fault of the religious tradition, but to human fault. It's very patriarchal. Either you fight it, or the more you fight, the more people refuse to understand. The more we use our heart wisdom, our understanding from wherever the kindness, the compassion to understand. Is it always there? No. I have to consciously, there are times, I just want to take a bag and just drive out in the sunset. But you have to, if you want to hope to make any changes, you have to stick to it. And my heart wisdom helps me. My nurturing my soul, and that speaks to the logic as well. That helps me. As a teacher in profession and a professor, I interact with people, kids, youngsters who are from 24 to in their mid-30s. And I always incorporate some kind of meditation in my class, because they get used to it after a little while, because my timer goes up and we spend some time in meditation. I always find time to ask them how they are and what matters to them and what is not working well for them. Because besides teaching them medicine or public health or academia, my interaction with them has to be holistic. It has to be wholesome. This was a little bit of my 2 cents on heart wisdom and the importance of incorporating that attribute in our lives. I'm going to stop here and let Arthur take the lead from here. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.